They're known for takeaways since he's been at Texas Tech and when he was at Houston. How much more do you preach the importance of ball security against the defense?
Yeah, that's a big emphasis, especially this week. And coming off of our past performance of having 4 turnovers, that was the message to the team Sunday night was, when you get farther into conference play and you get into these tighter games, those turnovers are going to be very important to our success, not just as an offense, but as a win-loss record as well. But yeah, it's an emphasis where we're going to add extra ball security periods this week and just make sure that we're covering all the bases, because this is a team that takes a lot of pride in the extracurricular in terms of stripping the ball out, and we got to be on point with that, and we got to take care of the football.
Pretty impressive performance from their defense against Oklahoma State last week. On film, what have you seen maybe that they're doing that's working especially well for them?
I think they're playing at an extremely hard level. Like, they're playing with great energy. They have great enthusiasms out there. It looks like they love playing the game. And when you play with that enthusiasm and that effort, you're going to naturally cause turnovers. And I thought that at the beginning of the game versus Oklahoma State, they're in a tight battle, and they just kept consistently playing with great effort throughout the course of the game. And it got to the point where I just thought they wanted it more than Oklahoma State. And it is an aggressive defense. They play a lot of man. They're going to be added hats in the run fit. It's a team that's going to make you earn everything that you do. And if you come out there and you're not accurate with the football, and you're not winning one-on-one battles, and you're not playing with the effort that if you're not at least matching what they're doing, it could be a long night for any offense that plays against them.
What have you seen on tape from the safety that's back Washington? I know Cliff said on the call that he gets them organized back here. Does that show up when you watch what he did against Oklahoma State?
He does. Like, they play a lot of different bodies. They do. I think they do a really good job in terms of keeping those guys fresh. If you look at the Houston game, if you look at the Oklahoma State game, they played a lot of plays. In Houston and in the Ole Miss game. So they're playing a lot of snaps, and they do a good job of keeping fresh bodies. But you can tell with Washington out there, he's going to make sure that everybody's lined up. When you get Jackson back, like what they got from the shoulder injury from last year, he does a great job as well. So they've got a lot of experienced bodies just across the board. They kind of remind us of how we are on offense. They had 10 returning starters. Even like their backup guys ended up starting, maybe 4 games last year. It's just a very experienced group. They can play a lot of guys. But we're expecting their best game, and we're expecting a lot of different people to be out there playing against us.
Important if your guys get in the second level to maybe make somebody miss. There are opportunities there because they pressure so much.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of one-on-one battles, and talking with our running back coach, you as a coordinator, you're trying to get into the perfect play call and try to get in a successful run scheme. And he looked at me and he said, at some point we got to make a guy miss. So we've got to be on point in terms of they make it hard. They make us earn everything that we're going to have to throw out there. So those running backs are going to be in for a challenge, because there's going to be a free hitter in a lot of the run game. And I think that's what they did to Oklahoma State. They took away their run game, which Justice Hill is a phenomenal running back. They took away that running game, and they forced the quarterback and the skill to be accurate with the ball, and I think they won that battle.
Jake, Will's freedom to check at the line has stayed in this. Is it as much as anybody you've given? You've had some other quarterbacks that have been good?
Yeah, I would say probably yes. I thought Davis Webb at Cal, again, coaches kids and guys that had a unique senior year, being around the facility for the entire day. That helps out a lot too when, these kids aren't, they've got online classes, or like for Will's case, he's finished up his degree and he's working on another one. And when you have all that time where you're around the building, you're going to give that guy a little bit more freedom. But if it's a freshman, a sophomore that's hitting those 15 hours a semester and they're not around as much, I'd probably hold off on that. But when you think of it from Will's standpoint, we give him a lot of freedom. He can do whatever. Then the greatest example of that was the 2 plays to Marcus on where he had 96 yards receiving on that drive. Those were all Will in his checks and things that we've had discussed throughout the course of the game. We didn't expect to get to that early, But it was just with him being around, the discussions that we had, that he was ready for it, and he exposed them when he could.
Do you have a percentage or not? Like, how many has he checked into in the first 3 games?
That's a good question. I'd have to go through and look at that. Now I'm pretty curious about that as well. Which we do look at that, and we have it on the initial play call and then what the check is. Tennessee wasn't as much, but he did have a few. He had a lot in the Kansas State game, probably very minimal versus Youngstown. It just depends on what they're trying to do to you. If you start getting into that cat and mouse game of trying to expect what they're trying to give you, there's probably going to be a lot more checks than usual. And this is a team that is going to play. They're going to get after you. They're going to blitz you. They're going to play man, and then they're going to drop 8 at times. So it's a good mixture of, I think it's going to be a good game for Will in terms of just having an understanding of what they're trying to do to him.
Is it true when he goes in to check something that you may not, you and Dana may not know what he had checked into?
Yeah, sometimes. Like I have a pretty good feel for what he's doing because of all the conversations we've had throughout the course of the week. The 2 plays to Marcus, for example, I knew exactly what he was going to. I just was surprised he got the same look back-to-back that he got to the second call, which was a double move that Marcus scored on. That's just part of the conversations we've had. We go through a lot of discussions in terms of what checks we like into certain looks, and we practice that throughout the course of the week. So we have a general idea what he's trying to accomplish. Now he did get baited a couple of times versus Kansas State. And, one of the sacks that happened, he got a protection. There was a protection issue where he got baited on, which that's going to happen when you give the quarterback that much freedom. And, that's just what you got to live with because majority of the time Will gets those kids in the right spot.
The level of control that he gets, or that most quarterbacks get now, pre-snap versus when you played quarterback, and maybe even when Geno was here, has it exponentially expanded?
Yeah, a lot. Just because the defenses now know how to play spread offenses. And I think that's just naturally, and it's hard because as a coordinator, you can't call perfect plays all the time. You've got to get that quarterback on the same wavelength as you to make sure that you're getting them in the proper call because way teams are playing us now, they're so multiple. It used to be back in the day where you just get a quarters look, especially at Kansas State, you'd get quarters the whole game. Regardless of what they're doing, you can take the same RPO every single time, and they'd never take it away. And now you do something in the middle of the game, they adjust immediately during that drive. So you got to, if you get back to that same call and they make the adjustment, you got to make sure that the kids understand where they're going from, what their next progression in the check is. And when Dan and I were here, when I was with Dan in 2011-12 with Geno, when we called run. It was a run to the right, and we'd have an RPO to the left. And then it started evolving where you had RPOs to the right and to the left. And then you got to where you get into protection checks. So it's kind of evolved, as defenses have evolved to stop us.
How much do you put into, okay, your quarterback understands it, but maybe the other 10 guys don't? I mean, does that factor into your leeway? Okay, if my quarterback's calling a check and my left tackle doesn't understand it or get it, then everything's out of whack. How much does that play into what you allow? And
we keep it very simple with the checks. We got it. It involves really just Will and making sure that there's a lot of moving parts to it because we'll tell the O-line what to do, we tell the running back, and then we'll tell the receivers what to do. So you can have a lot of different plays by design, but the O-line's really doing one play. So that's what makes us multiple, I believe, is just different personnels and body types and people running different routes, but keeping it very simple for the O-line.
I mean, that could get pretty complicated and confusing, I guess.
Oh, it can, but you make rules. Like, that's where you draw the line in the sand of this is as far as you can go. Like, not trying to do double moves and create all sorts of different things just for one look, maybe one play. Just keep it simple and execute.
Is your routine now with Zach on the other side pretty much set after having gone through that a couple of times? And
yeah, I talked to him last night. We didn't even mention the game. It was more just talking about our kids, but it's just part of it.
Afterwards, a little bit, after the game's over.
No, really? It doesn't. it's very businesslike. You know, we're brothers, and I got a lot of great friends on that staff. You know, the O-line coach was my O-line coach at Cal. You know, there's a lot of familiar faces. You know, I've known Cliff forever, and you know, we're great competitors. You keep it, you know, just businesslike. You know, we're great throughout the course of the week. We don't even talk football, and we get out there on game day and we try to compete and we try to win, and then we just go back to how it was after the game.
Jake, as far as your offensive line goes, Dana mentioned felt pretty good about where the tackles were at, but maybe still some questions on the middle three guys. Where are you at with that?
Same. You know, I think the tackles are playing at a high level. I do. I think that I think Josh Sills is playing well. I think he's having his times where he's looking like a dominant guard. You know, because he's starting to play more football and he's just getting more experience. But you know, center and right guard, you know, you're seeing great signs of improvement, but it's still not where we want to be. And as just an offense coordinator, you got to just keep preparing that. They're going to try to expose that at times. So what are you trying to do to prevent that? And we got to keep battling them. We keep it a healthy competition. We move those guys in and out. We got to make sure that we're not having any lack there, where we can just keep this offense moving forward.
David, would you discuss Marcus Sims' maturation process, and has it been frustrating to coach that? I mean, as knowing what was hidden in there and wasn't quite bursting out.
No, I think where Marcus is at right now is just kind of the natural progression of it. You know, I think he got a good year of playing last year. You know, he didn't play a lot of snaps because we asked him to do so much on special teams, and I think just as he's matured, as he's gotten more conditioned, you know, he's now starting to take games over, and I think that's just a lot of becoming older. And love where he's at. I think he's playing at a very high pace, a high level, and you know, I think he's one of the faster guys you'll see on the field. And when you got that speed and he's fresh, and you know that you know causes a lot of problems on defense coordinators when you got a guy that can take the field stretch the field vertically, because as you can tell, like a lot of the underneath stuff's been opening up for the kid, and that's where I see the biggest improvement for him is the underneath stuff. We all knew he could run and get it last year, and now he's becoming that every down guy that we can get it to him underneath, and he's going to make plays.
So your parents go to the game?
No, they won't show up to this one.
It's the one, right?
Yeah, it's the one. It's mom's rules.
Looking back to childhood, could you tell you were going to be an offensive guy and Zach was going to be defensive? Like, where did that split
we're
happen?
completely opposites. Just our personalities are. My dad's a defensive guy. My grandfather was an offensive guy, so that's kind of where it went down. Like he went after. He was a defensive guy, and in high school, I was on that path of being a defensive guy, and I had an opportunity to play quarterback, and I realized I kind of liked it over on that side of the ball, and we've just been that way ever since. But if you talk to him and you talk to me, you'll get two different personalities.
So it alternates by age, you and Grandpa, and then your dad.
Yeah, that's where it is right now. So.
Gary Jennings has been wearing feathers in his helmet this season for good luck. Do you believe that has been paying off for him so far?
No. No, he's a unique guy. I've never had a guy put feathers in his helmet before, but if he keeps playing like he is, man, I'm all for it. Then just I'll help him find feathers with all the birds and pigeons and everything out there. So we'll keep hoping that he plays at a high level.
Okay.